You are listening to Life Insights Live with Scout Bartlett. That's right, you are listening to Life Insights Live with Scout like Pathfinder, Bartlett like Pears, originating from our flagship studios of KEST 1450 AM in San Francisco, syndicated and simulcast around the world on www.ifidknownthen, www.ifidknownthen. Life Insights Live, the radio show, has been recognized as the longest-running major market personal growth radio program in the nation. We're very proud of that, and so we have archived a gazillion, well, plus or minus 2, episodes up on our website under Radio Archives. You're welcome to listen to them absolutely free, no charge to you. You do have to register for the website, but we don't buy, steal, sell, or monetize that information anywhere. In fact, we need you to actually volitionally, there's a good word, put your name into the mailing list if you'd like to be on our mailing list, and we'd like you on our mailing list, so please do that. It's right there on the front page of the website. Add yourself to the mailing list, and if you're in Facebook, please go in and like Life Insights Subtext Educational up on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. We'd like that. I know, we just did a whole spiel about ifidknownthen.com. We said the name several times, ifidknownthen.com. You could go to the website, ifidknownthen.com, but I know how brains work. Your brain just registered, something really familiar and easy. That'll be easy. I'll remember that. So pop quiz, go look in your head right now. Can you remember that? Yeah. You're going to go sit down at your device, and your brain's going to go, oh, God. And you're going to want to type in, it was something really easy that I was going to be able to remember, and that's not going to do it. So we've got, as they say in Europe, an earworm of a memorizable shortcut into our website that is a special favor to you in honor of the month of April. Carlos, give him the special April award.
The shortcut is notscott.com.
See, no matter how I word it, he knows what he's supposed to say there. Notscott.com for, well, to us anyway, relatively obvious reasons. Fabulous. Welcome back. Welcome to April. Holy shamoly. It's April. Yay. And, sunlight's coming back. When I was traveling in Alaska, it was fabulous. Any of y'all that haven't been in the northern climes, one of the interesting parts about Alaska is when they do the weather reports in Alaska, part of the weather report is how many minutes more or less of daytime that you're going to, of daylight, sunlight, that you're going to have today versus yesterday. Because it's that much of a change in minutes. But anyway, it's not quite that much of a change, but certainly on a monthly basis, we're noticing that we're getting way more sunshine now, along with, hopefully all the rain that we need. And that brings us around to contrast. We're beginning now. All right, it's sad that this is even close to being political, but it is. So I'll simply say it this way. I want to remind everybody that even if you've had the currently available vaccines, your body, as near as they can guess, is still able to transmit that virus through your body, and it's still able to transmit and share that virus with other bodies just for a much shorter period of time, and you don't end up in the hospital. That's the understanding of the science at the moment. There are new vaccines coming out that look like they'll make it to where your body doesn't get that virus, and that could lead to some other groovy stuff, like maybe additional solutions for other viruses. Maybe they're going to nail a new solution for AIDS or herpes or any of those other fun things that people get to have and would rather not have. But please do continue to mask when you're among strangers and when you're out in public. Just please do it. It's not that painful. You can do it. I'll remind you that as a kid, maybe you were one of the kids like I was who didn't really want to wear shoes, but turns out shoes are useful. It's handy to protect us. And those shoes aren't even protecting other people. They're just protecting us. So, that's just our side comment, and I don't mean that politically at all. It's just science. With that said, I want to talk about the amazing experience we've had over the last year plus. I mean, it's a fun recognition for me that I was on the air, I was recording in the studio the first day last year that California announced on the 16th of March that people were to stay home and socially isolate. so it's just an interesting marker for me that day I rode BART to and from the city and haven't ridden BART in a year. Plus, it turns out that people go do workshops in order to sort of isolate themselves from the normal background chatter of their world. People join religious orders and go through whatever they go through when they go into a social isolation with a predictable routine that isolates them from what they were used to as the background chatter and the background noise of their world. We just got to have a response to a global pandemic. Not going to debate whether it's real or not. We just got to have the results of a global pandemic that had people around the world being more isolated and less involved in their normal distraction and routine. Staying home, being just within their home focus, even if you're Zooming all day long for school or for work. And I want to credit every student who's kept up with their schoolwork when they had to be self-motivated. I honor you guys, no matter what age you are, no matter what gender you are, or what gender you identify as. I honor y'all. Guys is a Kansas term, it's not gendered. I honor you guys for having been self-motivated. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Congratulations for that. You deserve extra congratulations for having gotten yourself through it. And for everybody that's, you're doing Zoom, you're still home. You're still within a relatively narrowed set of external stimuli. In fact, you're within a quite narrowed set of external stimuli. And that's actually had some interesting stuff. Now, in addition to the fact that our lifestyles were significantly modified and that our levels of other people's distractions were significantly modified, and even our need to be aware of where we were and what we were interacting with and who we were interacting with. If I'm going to go to the store, I need to know that I have a mask with me or in my car. A couple times I've gotten halfway between car and store because I was doing something else before I went, got to go back. It's in my car. Got to go get it. And I notice that even when I'm in a store, I'm very aware of how close I am, even crossing in aisles. I'm aware of everybody around me and of keeping my own space and keeping myself pretty much to myself. I will speak and interact if that shows up, but not to the same degree that I used to, because I'm kind of outgoing sometimes. And in addition to that part of changing our awareness and changing the numbers of distractions and the levels of our distractions, in addition to that, I want to tell you that the global transmission of a virus is pretty obviously, when one steps back for a moment, not the only thing going on the planet. We're in the midst of a tremendous change of the energy flow and the energy frequencies in the entire experience of the reality we think of as Earth. We're in the midst of a tremendous change in the entire experience of what we think of as Earth. It's just shifting, it's changing, and you can see it. I mean, we're finding different bugs. We're seeing changes of thermal effect on the planet. We're seeing changes of water flow. We're seeing changes of earthquakes. We're seeing changes of volcanoes waking back up. We're seeing amazing changes in terms of storm patterns. not to politicize. It's just a truth. We're just science. Well, I'm watching changes of energetic flow as well. And I'm catching a lot of it because I got the previews and the precursor and the pre-warning ahead of time over the last number of years because I do what I do, and every year in December and some years at springtime, it looks like probably this year probably this year, but every year in December and some years in the spring on the solstice, close to the solstice, rarely on it, I've been doing special messages from my highest guidance, bringing their information into Earth and bringing their energy flows into Earth. A pretty groovy experience. And so I had a lot of heads up of things to watch for in this period of time with the energy changing on the planet. I just didn't always understand what those things were going to look like, even though I knew to watch for them. Kind of like following a GPS and some of the GPS routes that'll tell you, landmarks. Yeah, you know it's going to be a landmark, but you don't necessarily know what it's going to look like. Or back in the old days when we had 2-lane roads all through Kansas, if you got directions from a local, it might include that when you see the big white house, you can't miss it, the big white house. Then you'll know that the next corner after that you want to turn left and go down there till you see the tractor mailbox. And when you see the tractor mailbox, you're going to turn left again, whatever. And you didn't know what the big white house was going to look like, but you had their assurances that you'd know it when you saw it. And, you're driving and you see a few white houses that aren't big white houses, and then you see it, and it's this, some amazingly gargantuan Victorian built out in the middle of farmland. Yep, there it is, big white house. Didn't know what it was going to look like, but now that I see it, I know it when I see it. So I was getting a whole lot of heads up ahead of time about this transitional period of our world shifting energy flow and shifting energy patterns, a lot of which I didn't totally understand what it would look like till I saw it. All of which I have been witnessing. I mean, one of the things they spoke about was that we would see a tremendous amount of polarity. One of the others they spoke of is that we would see a lot of people leaving the planet, their phrase for dying, that we'd see a lot of people leaving the planet in new and interesting ways. I look back, and I may get the time and the wherewithal to go back and look to find out if they ever said new and novel. I always remembered new and interesting. For all I know, they said novel and interesting, which would be wild. Don't know. Because then they would have had to predict what people were going to call it. But they did say we would see a lot of people leaving the planet in new and interesting ways, and that we might even have a year where there was actually zero population growth on the planet because enough people passed away that it counterbalanced the people born, and we didn't have any population growth for a year. I have not tracked the numbers on that this year. But I have to say, one of the things I expected from this period of social isolation was a baby boom. And so far, it seems like the statisticians are telling me that we're not having a baby boom come in yet. So it certainly didn't trigger a baby boom in those first weeks of March a year ago, or in the last weeks of March a year ago when we first went into isolation. So I don't know what the stats are. Not important. Because I've been watching the polarity, the amazing polarity we have on the planet, where, just all I did was discuss storms and realize, I better put in a political disclaimer because there are people that would get mad if I used another word for things in our climate changing. I mentioned the isolation and I used the word masks, and I'm having to walk a pretty careful line there because that's also a politicized item that people have largely polarized belief systems around. Turns out I'm well past 50. It was a thing of alertness for me. Kind of in that place of preachers, like, if it was time for God to call me home, yeah, groovy, but I didn't feel like my work was done, and I wasn't really looking forward to a really awful way to go. And my understanding is the people that did, it's an awful way to go. So that polarity was a piece that guidance spoke about. The change in earthquakes was a piece that Guidance spoke about. Change in storms was a piece that Guidance spoke about. A lot of stuff going on and changes in governments was stuff that people spoke about. And our government certainly, I'm going to say in a cynical way, I don't think our American government is ever going to be the same. But maybe it will, but it's going to take a long time. Because we don't have the America that I read about in the little weekly readers we used to get weekly when I was in grade school, that when I look back, they had some fair amount of political slant to them, but it described an America that I liked a lot, and that's not the America we have right now. Just saying. Either side of the polarity, you recognize that that's not the America we have right now, where the people in Congress feel they're in Congress to want to solve things as opposed to in Congress to have power. And my view is there's a whole number of people that are in elected positions that are not there to solve things, they're there to profit. So that's not the America I read about in my weekly readers. And we have entire news stations that are nothing but support for power groups. That's not the America I remember in weekly readers. In fact, they disdainfully described countries like that in my weekly readers. And I'm walking really close to a fine line here, so I need to back off. Part of the laws and rules and regulations that regulate this station says that I can't do political commentary. So I'm really not. I'm just describing the polarity. If it sounds like I'm taking sides, well, yeah, you're listening closely, because it is a polarity. And as a polarity, I have my polarization. But I understand the thought process on the other side of the polarity, and I'm more horrified by the polarization than probably any of the rest of it. But I didn't know what the big White House was going to look like when Guidance told me we were going to get to see that. I just knew that we were. Wow. I just remembered how to do radio for a moment. I'm late for a station ID break, so I need to break away so we can identify the station. We're going to give you our website in case you want to write it down or type it into a device. So stick around. I got a lot more to say, even if I've already ticked you off. You are listening to Life Insights Live with Scout Bartlett.
My name is Lisa, and I live in Benicia, and I just had an energy alignment with Scout, and it was amazing. I highly recommend it.
Fabulous. Thanks, Lisa. That's right. You are listening to Life Insights Live with Scout, like Pathfinder, Bartlett, like pairs, originating from our flagship studios of KEST 1450 AM in San Francisco. Syndicated and simulcast, broadcast, streamed across the world on www.ifidknownthen.com. www.ifidknownthen.com. Life Insights Live, the radio show, has been recognized as the longest-running major market personal growth radio program in the nation. We're pretty proud of that. And so we have archived a gazillion, well, plus or minus 2 episodes up on our website under Radio Archives that you're welcome to go in and listen to, no charge whatsoever. You can download them all. You could listen to nothing but me for weeks on end. Well, you could just rotate them around and listen to nothing but me for the entire rest of your life. I have to. You're welcome to do that. You do have to register to get at the older ones. In fact, I think all of them. But we don't buy, steal, sell, or monetize that information in any way whatsoever. In fact, we need you to volitionally put yourself into our mailing list. Yes, please do. It's right there on the front page of the website. In addition to volitionally putting yourself into the website, if you go up on Facebook, we'd love it if you would go in and like Life Insights, subtext educational, up on Facebook. Now, there is a workaround right now. We're working on fixing it, but there's a workaround right now. Those of you on Apple iPhones, right now the player won't play on an iPhone. Yeah, bless their hearts, the latest updates. But the workaround is really simple. When you go to listen to a show and you'll see the player, slightly further down on the screen, you'll see the name of the whole episode, the radio episode. You'll see the name of the file. Tap on that name. It'll ask if you want to download or view. You may have to hit download first, but then it'll say, do you want to view it or put it into memory? If you tap on view, it'll play right there on your phone just as it is. That's the workaround. The other workaround is to download the show into any device other than an iPhone, and then go ahead and import, that's the key word, it into iTunes, and then you can slide it onto your iPhone, no problem. You can have, we've got evidence that you can have a couple hundred episodes of the radio show in your iPhone all at the same time, and you can make different little icons all on your own if you're that creative, until you've got neat little icons for every single show. Anyway, please do help yourself. And that's all in our website, ifidknownthen.com. And I know how brains work. Brains will go, oh, yeah, that's familiar. I'll be able to remember that. And then when you go to type it in, all you remember is that it was something familiar. So we have, what they say in Europe, an earworm. We have a solid earworm of a memorizable shortcut to earworm its way into your brain. You'll have a hard time getting rid of it. My name is Scout, like in Pathfinder. The shortcut into our website is, Carlos, tell them.
NotScott.com.
You get it? NotScott.com. Yep. Just that easy. Bumbity bum. I always forget. It's like 8 letters. Is that what we counted?
That's
Not
correct.
counting the W's or the dot or the com. Yeah, just 8 letters. Easy to remember. So we'd love to have you come play. Please do put yourself in the mailing list so we can keep in touch and let you know the stuff that we've got going on. Over the course of the different events in this year, I'll just put it this way. One of them is that the owner and manager of the bookstore I used to be promoted through decided to make big changes in what the requirements were to be affiliated and have your name in their advertising, and those changes didn't sit well with several of the people who were being promoted through that store, and so we are no longer, they disaffiliated us. So you got to keep in touch with me through me now. I know there's a lot of other rumors as to what went down there. That's the shortest version of the story. They said sign or gone, and I didn't sign, so I was gone. And it's their store, you know. They could make a rule, any rule they wanted, and so they did. Meanwhile, isolation symptoms. So we've been in a place where we've had significantly less external distractions. You know, we're not hanging out. We're not heading out the door and then running a quick set of errands and stopping in 6 different places and doing all kinds of things while we're out. And we're not running out the door every day, many of us. I mean, I actually put my body in a store probably twice a month. Cautiously, conscientiously, and well-framed, quickly and efficiently, and I don't meander. Just my practice. You can have your own practice, but pretty much everybody doesn't meander. And so I have been surprised to find out that my store trips are shorter than they used to be. Wow, I can get into the grocery store, get everything that I actually need done and out, because I like grocery stores. I would kind of wander, and in the world of food products, I'm an early adopter. I'll try new stuff just to try it. But currently, I get in there, I get what I needed, I get out again. It's cheaper, which I found was interesting, and it's quicker, which I found was interesting. But, you know, mostly we've been having way fewer distractions in our world. I will say, I made it through the Bridgertons, liked it a lot, I recommend it. Binge watched it like crazy, wished that the second series was out by now. I know, it's embarrassing, I'm a guy, but it was a good show. We've had way fewer external distractions. We've been way more just in our own space and in our own thoughts. And at the same time, the energy flow has been elevating. This is a really weak metaphor or a really weak analogy. It's the best I've got. One of the side effects of that has been... All right, I have to back up. I was married to a woman named Ruth Ann, a brilliant and amazing human being that I lucked out, my perspective. I got to find out what she married me for in weird ways, and I get it, but to my view, I lucked out. A brilliant and amazing woman. Not that the woman part was important, just that she was. And she completed everything she needed to learn in this lifetime and crossed over. Yeah, I know. Ouch, sorry. Sorry to pop that in on you. It was 22 years ago, so now it's simply a life-changing moment in my history as opposed to, you know, there is a place where one of the nicest parts, I met a therapist during that period of time whose specialty is people who are in grief. And along the way, I learned a lot of grieving because I don't self-medicate. And so I got to walk through all of it consciously. And I learned a lot about grieving, but I happened to be in a conversation with this person that had that practice, and I asked them, how do you do this, to be in front of that kind of raw emotion all the time in your work? And what she said back to me was, I am in that raw emotion, but all of my clients do get better. She said, which isn't something that every modality of therapy gets to see. And I got her point that kind of like whether I think about and ponder a cut on my finger or not, that cut heals as a natural process. Whether we process our grieving or not, grieving heals into whatever scar it leaves, and it leaves a scar. But it heals. It doesn't go away, but it heals. And that's really true. And so that topic for me at this point is a poignant, life-changing part of my life history, as opposed to shortly after it happened, an immediate state of pain. So thank you for all your sympathy. Yep, it was pretty brutal, and yep, I learned a lot, and every bit of what I learned in the grieving process, I would certainly wish that I had never needed to know, although it is beneficial to a whole lot of clients. You know, not a thing that would have been like, wow, let me do that some more. No. Unlike a favorite roller coaster of, wow, really, I can get cuts in line and ride it again right away? Yeah, this was not that. Grieving has never been that for me. I don't think it is that for anybody. Meanwhile, when she crossed over, okay, this was going to be a one-sentence story. She managed to, through other people that were the people I least would have expected, and were the people that they themselves least would have expected, on dates that they had no way to know were significant, her birthday, her mother's birthday, the anniversary of our first date, things like that. They had no way to know these dates. They didn't do it on purpose. She managed to push these people so hard that they compulsively had to get in touch with me, and they were embarrassed and shy to do it, with a message from her. And the messages were the same content, even though the translation was different, enough for me to recognize them by the time I got the third one, and by the time I was getting the fifth or sixth one. I swear there were six, but I've only been able to remember five. It was really clear to me that these were a direct communication from the woman I'd been married to as she continued onward, after her body had finished its route, as she moved forward into that which gets referred to as life beyond death. It gets referred to that here. It's different on the other side. Bingo. So I always have to phrase it that I no longer believe in life after death, because you don't have to believe in a thing that you know is true. The same way that I don't have to believe in the idea that having an opposable thumb makes it easier for me to open a pickle jar than, say, a dog trying to open a jar of dog food. Right? I don't have to believe in the usefulness of an opposable thumb. I simply know it's useful, and I just live with it. It's just a truth. Same deal about the ongoingness of us beyond the state of being alive and in a body. Now, speaking of ongoingness, even though I was late for first break, I'm supposed to be on time after that, not stay late. So we're going to have to break away again, because what I want to do is I want to teach you our LIVE live beam meditation. This is the practice I work with. It's life-changing. I want to teach you the live beam meditation. We're going to teach it for about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So we have a little bit of insight for you right here. If your brain just said you can't possibly take a 2-minute and 45-second meditation break right now, here's a headline for you.
You might be wound up a little bit too tight.
Just a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Meanwhile, I always like to point out that if you're operating a motor vehicle, when I invite you to close your eyes, please don't. Keep them open, pay attention, because the people around you aren't. That's another symptom of this isolation stuff. And if you're on a bicycle, you're supposed to be on the street, not the sidewalk. It's not the side bike, it's the sidewalk. You're supposed to be on the street and on the same side of the street with the flow of traffic. Pedestrians, when there's no sidewalk, walk facing traffic. Bicycles ride with traffic. So in America, bicycles are supposed to be on the street, riding on the right-hand side, and stopping for stop signs and stoplights. But, I'm never going to get that one, but at least we can get you on the right side of the street. Cool. So that's our public service announcement. Now, we'd like to do the meditation, so go find yourself a place, just, light somewhere, set yourself down, and let your eyes go closed. And just draw in a long, deep breath till your lungs are full, and let that air flow out again. And as you're ready for another breath, Let it be a long, deep breath. And this time imagine the air flowing out through your body as if your body was entirely made of compressed layers of silk or fabric. And with each breath, let the air flow in. And then let it flow out through your body, feeling your body open and expand. And in your imagination, I'd like you to imagine reaching a hand down to the center of the earth, stirring that warm, rich, dense energy there in the center of the planet. Curl that hand into a cup and use that cupped hand now to draw a streamer of energy right up through the planet beneath you. It's just energy passing through energy. To draw an intense streamer of energy right up from the center of the earth, up through the earth and into your body just in front of your tailbone. That's your first chakra. And let yourself match that warmth, center of planet, through planet, and into your body at first chakra. Now focusing on that stream of energy from the center of the earth, stretch that stream of energy. As you draw it up deep inside your body, just in front of your spine, draw that streamer of energy up through your abdomen, through your chest, through your neck, through your head, out to the top of your head, and all the way up and into what I'll call source. And speed that beam up. Speed up that flow from the center of the earth right up through you, up and geysering or fountaining into source. For those of you that are sensitive, you may notice that source energy, a higher frequency energy, conducts right down that beam right through you and into earth. There's an exchange, not your job. Your job is to focus on increasing richer, denser, faster, brighter, more, making more energy be flooding up that beam. And you may notice a sense of compression inside your body or a sense of pressure inside your body. Just relax against that. And whether you're feeling it as a feeling or whether you're just working with this as a concept, relax against that pressure and just really allow for that flood of energy up that beam in the center of you to create a glow out through you, and let that glow shine out through you and out through everyone and everything around you. Floors, chairs, walls, ceilings, people, baby ducks, baby rhinos, baby leopards, Scout redeeming newspaper-worthy lotto winnings, whatever's in your surroundings. Just let that glow right out through you and right out through everyone and everything around you. And if you notice places where that beam constricts or restricts, just simply bring it open, let that energy flood right up through you all the way into source, and allow that light to glow from inside of you out through you and out through everything around you. If you can, stay with that meditation all the way through to the end of the program. When your mind drifts, just simply bring it back. If you need to bring your full focus back, then now would be the time to give your body a big breath. And as you let it out, let it stretch your neck and shoulders, and welcome back into the room. Welcome back.
Hi, this is Rudy from Campbell, and I just wanted to say thank you to Scout for all that he's done with his Life Insights work. I've had the privilege of working with Scout since, I think it was 2008 when I was introduced to the Life Insights work. And it's just been amazing stuff, and I'm very grateful to know Scout and to be a part of the Life Insights family. Thank you, Scout.
Wow, thank you, Rudy. That's fabulous. A portion of what I get feedback on is people continuing to use the practices that we teach. And I will tell you that through the month of March, I made all of our shows in the first 4 weeks of March. Each first Monday show was a workshop in various parts of what we teach. And then the final show of the month of March was a Spiritual Perspectives interview with Fujiko Saenz, which is also truly a delight. Building our energy levels makes a difference in our ability to authentically be us and our ability to find the freedom in us to find that authenticity that is us and be that. Now, talking about the energy change and the symptoms we've had during the period of isolation of the last year or so. One of the energetic changes, the reason I had to talk about Refam, one of the energetic changes is that there is an ongoingness of consciousness well beyond when we complete a cycle through a body. There's difference of view as to whether we complete more than one cycle through a body. Not important here. Whatever you believe, fine by me. But there's a tremendous truth to the fact that there's an ongoingness of conscious awareness beyond our experience in the body. In the parlance of the industry, that's referred to as beyond the veil. In fact, when we cycle around through the year to Halloween time, typically at Halloween time, I do a workshop. In fact, typically on Halloween, although sometimes not, I do a workshop that is about life beyond death and before. What do we learn? What have I learned from people that have crossed over that are beyond the veil? One of the things that's been going on during this same time period that we've been doing social isolation, that we've been doing amazing polarity in our population, that we've been doing remarkable amounts of attention into our political process, as well as our broadcast media process. It's one of the reasons I broadcast on KEST. There is no owner that tells me what I'm allowed to do or not allowed to do, except that I'm not allowed, it's in our station contract that I'm not allowed to be a political advertising. But, there's no Pepsi or Coke or any other advertisers here that tell me I can or cannot talk about what we want to talk about, which is why we're able to have a major market personal growth radio show and why we're able to produce that. And why we have spent the time producing that is our gift to the community. It's part of my tithing. During this period of time, with the shift and change of energy on the planet, the frequency we're living at has been elevating. And it was elevating gradually, but it has sped up over the past 14, 15 months. A lot. That increase of frequency, that increase of energy in human bodies on reality systems has sped up. Some of the easy things you'll notice are that time is moving way the heck weirder than it ever did before compared to your thought process. I suspect that it's been forever since Christmas, just as a marker point, because there's been so much going on. I suspect that in some levels of your consciousness, it's been forever since Christmas, and in other levels of consciousness, how on earth are we at April 5th already, or April 7th, depending upon which day you listen to this. And it could be some completely different date, but we broadcast on the 5th and the 7th. Like zwish. Speed of time has been speeding up versus speed of thought, which means that time, physical time and physical clocks are staying pretty well coordinated, pretty well. But speed of time versus speed of thought has changed. Speed of time versus speed of thought, time is moving much faster. Any of y'all that have a procrastination habit, you are definitely noticing that the amount of mental time, which was, I'm going to put that off till this afternoon, it now ends up that by the time you circle back to it, it's not this afternoon. It's like not even tomorrow. It's probably weeks later. Got it? But one of the other things that's going on is it's kind of like if we thought that the veil upon which I'm describing that folks who are not embodied are on the other side of the veil. If we thought of the veil as being, I don't know, let me just make up a story here. If we thought of the veil as being a 12-foot tall wall that some of us could kind of catch glimpses over, like some of us that were psychic-y, maybe we had sort of a trampoline, or I actually had ways that I could find a way through the veil and be communicating on the other side of the veil. But that's a skill set. Not a thing that you need to work toward. Not an important element. It's the kind of thing where you probably want to build some training before you do that, because there's places that you can wander off and get information that would be not helpful, like destructive, because it would be false information. And you don't want that. You don't need that, as well as attachments and embodiments and other kind of weird stuff. So, yeah, not a goal, but, it's true. So the fun part being that if we thought of that veil, that those that had crossed over as being like a 12-foot tall wall, I think that's the number I used, and that we were all at ground level, and that some of us had the ability to sort of like, go get a lift truck and be elevated and be able to peek over and make communications on the other side, but mostly not. Or some of us knew where there were knotholes in the wooden fence, and we could talk through the knotholes. Sorry, I'm just ruining the metaphor, the analogy. But during this period of time that energy frequency on the planet is elevated, the frequency of being crossed over has not changed. But the frequency of being embodied, incarnate, it's funny, I say incarnate, and it makes me think of carne asada. And so I kind of think of incarnate as translating to in the meat. It's not a literal translation, it's just what my brain does. But the frequency of being not incarnate, crossed over, has not changed. But the frequency of being incarnate, in the meat, in a body, in an earth suit, as Betty used to say, is in a meat puppet, as I'm sort of crudely phrasing, the frequency of being incarnate has elevated. So the frequency of being on the other side of the veil has not changed, but the frequency of being in a body has elevated. So if we made up our story about there being a 12-foot wall that was the veil, it would be vertical, not horizontal, but it's kind of like all of a sudden the whole planet has built risers everywhere. And so if you walk toward the veil, you're much more at the level of peeking over, or maybe it's actually got those risers built up to the point that you're now looking right across. Don't get spooked. However, one of the side effects of that is that people have noticed that they've felt closer to those people that they've lost, or even those people that are still on the planet but that have left their lives. But people in particular have noticed that they're having waves of connection with, dreams of connection with, embodiment dreams, or even waves of connection with those who have crossed over, which for most of us, those waves of connection with those who have crossed over comes complete with the experiences of the sadness parts of grief. The poignancy, the tenderness, the sadness part. I've had big waves of connection with, with both of the cats that I have been adopted by in my lifetime, but particularly the one that I belonged to for almost 20 years. Uno Kitty, for those of you that ever met him in class, way back. Waves of feeling the connection in the heart sense of Uno Kitty. Actually, his full name was Number One Kitty. That came complete with sorrow and grief. But waves of the human beings that I've been connected to, just showing up in waves out of nowhere that have since crossed over. I mentioned Ruth Ann, my folks have both crossed over. Waves of that, just out of nowhere. And that's what caught my attention to go, okay, what is this? It's that elevation of energy. So if you've noticed that you've been having lots of waves of sorrowful levels of grieving, of things that are no longer in your life, that's partially because of this elevation of frequency. Even the people and circumstances that didn't cross over, but they're no longer a part of your life, if you're noticing that you're getting waves of the sadness or whatever of that, that's also this energy raise. One part is the energy frequency change has elevated us closer to the other side of the veil. Not to say you're going to die, but it's elevated us closer to those that are on the other side of the veil, because the veil didn't move, we moved higher. It's also, though, triggering deeper energy flows inside of us, which is from whence spring our own recognition and realizations of our patterns, our numbers, our buttons that contributed to, resulted in the scenarios in our life that were temporary and are no longer part of our lives. It's all part of this growth process. Speaking of which, I'm going to try and be on time for this break. So we're going to break away to give you the station identification, also to give you our website. You may want to write it down, but stick around. I got more to say. You are listening to Life Insights Live with Scout Bartlett.
Hi, this is Robin from San Francisco, and I just wanted to give a thanks and a shout-out to Scout for all of the classes and support that he's given me over the years to help me set off on a spiritual journey. The foundation was definitely given with a lot of care and love and humor. So thank you, Scout. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Robin. That foundation led to her founding a yoga school and then actually allowing that yoga school to move on for others, and she's doing new adventures now. We're in a period of time where the frequency of being alive and in a body, the frequency of incarnation, the frequency of being here on the planet in a body is elevating. During that same period of time, some of what we got to watch in this transformation of our physical reality, we've gotten to watch storms and viruses and other interesting things going on. And we've gotten to watch a lot of people, leave the planet in new and interesting ways. We also got to experience decreasing, at least in America, decreasing a lot of the external chatter. There's still been Netflix binging, but it's not like you're in place, encountering and roaming among several hundred people in stores and shopping and movie theaters and all that other stuff in your days. A whole lot more settled down and calmed out. All of that going together with the energy expansion that's going on. We chatted a lot about multiple lifetimes on the first Friday of April, last Friday, on the First Friday Spirit Talk show that I do with Ginny Brown and Christopher. It should be up on YouTube by the end of this week, I would expect. So you can go find it. You can find the previous editions we've done. But that's kind of a side topic here, but we got into some of this stuff. With this energy transformation, one, there's more energy flowing, which means that your own patterns are going to get more and more visible to you. The stuff that triggers as autopilot knee-jerk responses in you that have shaped your life are coming to the surface and getting more visible. They're getting more visible not to beat you up, but so that you can recognize them and move beyond them. That's a whole part of, for Ginny and I, that's a whole part of our practices on individual work. In our individual work is sort of like birthing you through the release of your patterning. And for me, it's bringing you into your own alignment so that you have a solid awareness, so that you have a solid connection with that which is you, so that you can find your way back to it in the midst of all of your buttons getting pushed whenever they're getting pushed. It's the whole deal. If you've been noticing that you've been grieving things that used to be in your life, if it was people or critters that have crossed over, or trees for that matter, that have crossed over, it's because we've moved closer to that veil, and you're sort of being able to hear it through the veil, or some of us have moved enough closer to where it's getting easier and easier to look across to the other side of the veil and interact. But I want to let you know, if you've been noticing that people that have crossed over out of your life have been showing up in your dreams or showing up in your thoughts or showing up with waves of sadness that surprise you. It could even be your favorite teacher from grade school that you don't even know if she's crossed over, but you could kind of assume, given that you were a kid and they looked old, even that, it's because we're closer to the veil, it's real, it's legitimate, it's yours, and just let the feelings flow through you and let them flow through. But if you've been noticing you're grieving about people that left your life that haven't crossed over, but that just aren't in your life anymore, even if it's your preference. In my Love as an Energy Flow workshop, I reference one relationship in my life that I know I have a deep love connection with that woman, and I also have a deep preference that she never show up in the same room I'm in ever again if I can help it. Don't like her, love her. It's just one of those deals. I know that connection's there, but our pathways were so different that our personalities don't match at all. But and that's not one, but if you're noticing that you're having people that are no longer in your path, that you are noticing their sadness and grief, what's going on there is this increase of energy flow, this acceleration of energy flow is bringing to the surface, all along, consciousness practices, every practice we do that accelerates our energy flow is going to bring also our patterns up to the surface. There's a particular form of chiropractic that's specifically about energy flow, and when they first started doing that, they didn't know it was going to bring up people's stuff. And so there was a period of time where I made a chunk of my living was people that had gone for that kind of chiropractic work, and it brought up so much of their life stuff, then the work itself had no way to deal with it at that point. They've developed and expanded and moved, and it's a different practice now. But all of the things that have existed that were consciousness expansion, even as simple as a meditation practice, elevates our energy flow. It elevates our energy frequency that allows us to gain a place. Well, I'll tell you, the first thing it allows us to gain is being able to see everybody else's patterns So keep your mouth shut. Don't try to fix them. Don't try to tell them their patterns. It's just your level 1 of development. You know, I would have to say, Carlos and I were talking about baseball, and I would have to say that the first thing that probably happens for people that ever start getting coaching in how to hit a baseball with a bat is they can see what everybody else is doing that's making them miss their swing, and it's probably wildly tempting to go tell them what to do. Golf is the same stuff. Bowling is the same stuff. Any athletic, you know? As we build our energy flow, we become more able to see everybody else's repeating patterns. Not your business, not your story. Keep your nose out of it. Because the next layer of your development is then you're being able to see your patterns. Well, with the planet elevating the energy and the frequency on the planet right now, everybody is getting elevated. It's an easier birth process of birthing you through out of your patterns if you're doing it consciously. If you're just getting shoved forward by the planet and by this increase of frequency, it's sort of like it's a lot easier if I know I'm in the rapids in a river and if I keep myself feet forward and if I had decent shoes on my feet so that I can navigate with the water. That's a whole lot easier than if I'm busy trying to go face first and trying to swim upstream in the rapids, not looking in the direction the rapids are taking me. I'm going to get bashed against a bunch of rocks. If we're being shoved into an acceleration of frequency by the planet around us without consciously participating in the process, we're just going to have a bunch of stuff surface, whether it's old rage, old anger, and it's going to surface even our old rage and our old anger at us or our patterns or our repeating patterns or our predictability. Well, we've been seeing a lot of evidence that people have had stuff surface and they've been taking it out on the walls of their house or verbally or beyond, taking it out on the other people around them. Yeah. We're being elevated in frequency. If you've noticed that you've had waves of frustration and anger, don't try to tear yourself apart for it. Try and breathe to them and let them flow through you. That's a portion of you actually developing your energy level. If you've noticed you've had waves of sadness, that's you. If you need to, turn on the Hallmark channel and let that purge some tears. There's an Eastern medicine phrase which is called frozen water. Turn on the Hallmark channel, turn on any tearjerker channel, and let that purge some tears for you. But go deep. Go for the sobs. Don't go for the surface. Go for the sobs, and you'll actually clear it through and feel it purge. So if you've been having anger, just let it flow through you and recognize it's because energy is elevating. If you've been having sadness and grief, let it flow through you. It's energy. If you've been having really harsh judgments of yourself and challenges to have any level of appreciation or esteem about you, let it flow through you. It's part of this energy flow. Even when you notice the places in life where you put the thing in front of you that then tripped you and made you fall figuratively on your face in life, even when you're noticing how your own patterns and your own buttons were pre-programmed and that you just played out those programs like a robot and got the results you would expect, and to borrow from Dr. Phil, and they weren't working for you. Paraphrasing. I'm not giving any attributions to Phil. That's just his catchphrase. How's that working for you? As I understand it, maybe it's moved on. I'm not endorsing nor am I negating whatever it is he does. I just am not currently a participant and haven't been. Sorry, stop, Scout. Go back. The symptoms of having less distraction is that we're less distracted. The symptoms of having less distractions is that we get to see and hear ourselves more and more. The symptoms of energy elevating and the circumstances that had us be more isolated all go together. And all of it, you can just do the meditation that we taught at the half hour. If you didn't like the one today, we teach it at the half hour in every show. There's hundreds of shows up on the website. Go find all of them. And if you're really good with audio, you could TikTok them all together and you could make a 200-minute meditation or something of all those various, or just find your favorite and TikTok it out and edit it out and just have that one. Or just learn it and do it. It's easy. Easy to do. The hard part is getting yourself to let you do it. So let you do it. That will help you move with this expanded energy flow rather than getting shoved around by it. And that's my wish for you. That's my prayer for you, allowing this energy to flow through you and elevate you and lift you. So I have two requests. One, treat yourself as a loved one, because you truly are. And just notice, no matter where on earth you are, it's a perfect day to have a great day on purpose.